Dr. Ayoola Oduntan. You are welcome on this program.
Thank you.
Let me fire the first one. Who is Dr. Oduntan? Can you tell us right from the beginning?
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. I'm humbled to be here today.
Oh, wow.
And I was born on the 7th of July, 7-7. And I've always felt lucky.
Wow.
I went to secondary school in Federal Government College. In Ahmadu Bello University, we were more centered in the direction of large animal practice, that is sheep and goats, cattle. But my working with Pfizer introduced me to poultry. And then after that, I started working in a company called Sanders Feeds. And they had factories around the country, and that got me the opportunity to work everywhere in Nigeria. They had a factory in Benin. I spent time there. They had one in Awe. They had in Kaduna, and I worked in all these places. I rose through the ranks, starting as a vet surgeon on the farm in Awe to become the national sales and marketing manager. And the French decided to leave Nigeria because the companies went bankrupt. And I had the opportunity to buy two of the small companies that they were throwing into the market because they couldn't get anybody to buy it. And started off in 2003 on my own. I got married along the line to my girlfriend and the love of my life. We've had a lovely time. We have 2 children. I grew my businesses through these years. We're here today on Dele M talking.
Well, I always like for people to know that life is not a bed of roses. So if we could still take you back to the early days, how you grew up, where you grew up, how education was at that time, did you have to do any jobs? I was an errand boy at a CSS bookshops in Ife. I was a village teacher, And by the way, when you mentioned 77 as that's a lucky number, I can tell you that I'm surrounded by 7. I am 7 years, 7 months, 7 days older than my wife. Can you believe that?
Okay.
It's incredible. My second son was born July 7, 7/7. And my first son and my last son, their birthdays are 7 days apart.
Okay.
My third son was born 1997. My wife was born 1967.
Okay.
So can you believe that?
7 is the number.
I'm surrounded. Our house is number 77. Yeah, it's great. I'll just get there. I will see 7. It's incredible.
Yeah, so, fantastic.
Yes, if you could give us a bit about that background, because there is no greatness without a long story.
It's been tough. I noticed one of the pictures you used was the one of me holding a tiger. And people have asked, are you crazy? Why should you? And I said, if you run a business in Nigeria, you face more danger than that. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had no idea how that was going to be. Bello University. Myself and 2 of my friends started the first fast food joint on campus. And I employed my first staff at that time. So I started to show an interest in entrepreneurship and business from an early age. My mother, who used to also engage in trading, used to send me on different trips to manage her, businesses. And I remember traveling by truck one day, sitting in front of the truck with the driver. I could not have been more than 15 or 16, traveling from Ibadan to Lagos to come and do some delivery. So I've always, and as I moved from primary school to secondary school to university, it's always been a part of me. And when I started to work in the companies I've worked in, I always used to move closer to my bosses and ask them questions. So I never really just worked with them. I actually worked for them and was a student under them to try and learn as many tricks as I could. So doing business in Nigeria is really, really tough. Our guy at the top, Dangote, once compared it to she will get a special place in heaven because they've already experienced Nigeria. It's true, but it's a lion that can be tamed. It's a tiger that can be tamed, but you just need to follow certain rules. And I think succeeding in Nigeria is actually, in spite of all the challenges we face, very, very possible. All of it, of course, is by God's grace.
Wow. Now, were there books that you read that you believe would have affected you positively in life? Or were there teachers, or were there people who inspired you? We always like to know, because nowadays people are probably without heroes. People hardly read, and they just expect that, yes, they want to be Dr. Oduntan overnight. So I can see a lot of people already raising their thumbs up that they want to know.
First of all, I've always liked good things. So to a certain extent, that was quite inspiring. So even as a vet student, you see me gravitating towards the Rottweilers and the Golden Retrievers and all the exotic dogs when they bring him into the clinic. And I'll take a few steps backwards when we bring, the less. So I've always liked good things. I think that is an inspiration because you have to know what you want. I've also always liked to succeed. And that has helped me really, because I'm willing to go the extra mile just to be able to achieve the objective. Now, with regards to books I have read, a guy called Brian Tracy, and I used to listen and refer to his work quite a bit. There's one he did called The Psychology of Achievement that I was fortunate enough to see quite early on. There's another one called How to Treat People, and can't quite remember the name now. That also was quite interesting. I've read all of Jack Welch's work because I thought he was a great manager and he achieved quite great success. Napoleon Hill was given to me. Napoleon Hill's books have helped to focus. I've also read a lot of biographies, and with YouTube now, I'm constantly checking out the lives of Larry Ellison, Jeff Bezos, Aliko Dangote, Femi Otedola. I've been quite inspired by what some Nigerian businessmen have done. And, but most importantly, understanding what I want to do being a good student of my subject and focusing, and putting everything in the hands of God to direct accordingly.
Wow. I just knew you must be an intellectual of sorts, from your profile and from your looks. And so I'm not surprised at all. Someone was writing here that books don't work. No, books work. The more you read, if you look behind me, you can see some of the books here I've acquired for over forms. So there's always a story. Now, what are the attendant risks attached to being a vet doctor? It's something that
I have 6 Rottweilers.
Wow.
I've always had them. It's one of the prerequisites for getting a home for me. It must have enough space for my dogs.
Wow.
I can't keep the dogs in Lagos, unfortunately, now, but I have them on my farm.
Wow.
So, pitfalls of being a veterinarian. First of all, I've had a few of my fingers bitten a few times.
Wow.
Interestingly, one was by a goat, a ram, actually. And I was trying to give it some anti-diarrheal in its mouth. That day was a Friday, I remember, because it was a traditional day. So I wore a traditional outfit. So it was between my legs, and I was supposed to inject the anti-diarrheal. But the ram was a feisty fella. And so he started to move. And my fingers were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I had to rush to hospital to take anti-tetanus injections. I didn't do the right thing. I broke the rules, and I paid for it.
Wow.
But otherwise, the veterinary profession is not fully appreciated in Nigeria. There's a lot of work being done right now. We just put into the Veterinary Council a very, very strong and hardworking lady. She's a commissioner for police, and she's a veterinarian, Dr. Aisha Mohammed. She's going to do a great job of bringing the veterinary profession to where it's supposed to be. Also, unfortunately, a few days ago, we lost our national president of the Veterinary Medical Association, Dr. Agai. We lost him to COVID-19. He was in his mid-50s. So I'd like to use that opportunity to also tell everybody that this thing is real, it's serious. We do the right things. So the being a vet, for me, was not about small animal practice. It was about providing food. And in providing food, I was looking at chicken, cattle, sheep and goat, fish. And that really has been my journey. And in that journey of livestock production, you definitely meet with a lot of challenges, especially in Nigeria, because you're battling with things that your colleagues in other countries would not even think about. And so that also is a problem. For instance, you're spending hundreds of millions of naira on diesel. You're spending a lot of money grading roads that should be graded. You're sinking boreholes all over the place, where there should be water. You're battling with the absence of a commodity exchange that can help you regulate prices. So you have a situation where your price of commodities are going up and down significantly within one season. There are a lot of challenges that need to be overcome. But you see, these challenges can be overcome. And if we just do a few things properly, and I believe we're going to have to do those things in the current dispensation, we will achieve success.
Wow. Now, I was going to stop you for a minute, play you a song, and then we'll take the next one. We do it slow and steady wins the race.
Okay.
Understand how we have come by life. I cannot understand how we ever let things get so bad. Let you out of my sight, baby. Never knew how much I cared. Never knew. Wherever I go, wherever far away, you're always on my mind. Sick and bad life,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was Lagbaja for you. A very, very great artist. Yeah, people are asking. I spoke to him last week. I'm actually planning and working hard to bring him. Lagbaja is not easy to get on any program. So, well, he's my very good friend. We've been friends from Ife, from school. Yes, sir. Could you tell us, I know you have a very expansive group of companies and you are the group managing director and CEO. Now, okay, your internet went for a second. Oh, again? Okay. Yes. Could you tell us the different aspects of what you do, sir?
Chief, when you say we have a big, wide company, it's a relative matter because there are not very many big companies. You know, most of the companies that we have are a fraction of the size they should be. I'll give you a simple example before I answer your question. The number one producer of frozen chicken, slaughters 40 or 50,000 birds, 1,000 birds a day. South Africa has a third of our population.
Wow.
So, do we have a very big company? No. Do we aspire to be a very big company? Yes. Do we have what it takes to get there? Yes. So the billion-dollar question is, why are you not there? That is for a symposium discussion.
Who wants to know, if we can learn from you, then there's no point starting from the beginning. Let me say I'm joining what you're doing. So I want to learn from you so that I don't have to start from the beginning. Because what happens in Nigeria is that every business you do, you start from the beginning because there were no role models in front ready to speak about anything. I'm not sure if Aliko has delivered a lecture of this nature. I would love to have him on this platform, if possible, for 5 hours. Last night, we had Professor Wande Abimbola for 3.5 hours on this forum. We've never done that. He said, but that's because at 87, the man was ready to pour out his heart. So it's the same thing I'm hoping we can do with you, because I know that you have a. It would be nice to be as generous as possible with words.
Chief, thank you. Our business is focused on animal protein. And that's one of the lessons that I have learned, that you must make a success of one thing and then go on to the other. You cannot excel in too many things at the same time. So our business is focused on animal protein. And I can say I have done it 30 years now. The single most important factor in the success of our group, the team that works in the company, is, the human capital is the single most important resource. And I thank God that God has blessed us from the beginning with good people, really, really good people. From the beginning of the value chain to the end of it. We do, on a small scale, maize and soya beans outgrowers schemes. And then we have a feed mill company called Amo Bing Nigeria Limited. And Amo Bing Nigeria Limited has 3 factories. One in Aba in Abia State, which we've been running for, one in Plateau State in Jos, and one in Awe in Oyo State. So our feed companies are able to service distributors around the country. The feed is supplied to a company called Amo Farm Zebra Hatchery. And Amo Farm Zebra Hatchery produces dill chicks primarily. And we are probably the #1 producer of dill chicks in Nigeria, by God's grace. And we chicken, eggs, beef, fish. The dill chicks is served, the companies and the industry is served by a company called Diversity Solutions Limited. Diversity Solutions has a laboratory, and we do build, operate, train, and transfer livestock projects. So we take your piece of land and turn it into a functional farm, stock the chicken, stock the cattle, train your staff, and then hand over. Disinfectants. And with our experience with disinfectants, by next week, we are launching a disinfectant booth, which, because we have been producing these things for our chicken farms for many, many years, we're able to manufacture 100% local content for supermarkets, banks, hospitals, and places like that. So after you have sanitized your hand, you will walk into this police station outside our office in Lagos now. And we hope to be able to offer that. Wow. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. Outgrower farmers. We have a network of 2,470. But most importantly, they get the service. They get this technical support service, birds into our abattoirs. Now we have abattoirs in Uyo. On the other side of it, we have the entrepreneur sellers. And they are small graduates to big business people, some as low as 2 deep freezers in their garage. And they're able to own, and in their little estate or community, they provide the protein needs in that community. This model of input and output is the model that is used around the world. I know some people might be thinking, this guy is greedy, he's doing everything. Multi-billion-dollar companies in Brazil, in the United States, in Mexico, everywhere around the world, in South Africa, in Egypt, we're just recreating that model here. And it is tried and tested. So our next phase is to roll this model out across the length and breadth of this country and grow also into a mega business. But more importantly, we are creating successful businesses in the process. And we have seen that the more successful businesses we create, the more successful we are. So I can take you to a chicken farmer who started with us with 2,000 birds, who now has 25,000, is smuggled in from outside the country.
60 to 70%.
So the statistics have told us. And that on its own is 700 or 800 billion naira, which is money a year, which should be shared among all the producers of chicken in Nigeria. You will find that in most countries, they don't have this problem. So if you look at Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, South Africa, that are biggest in the continent, you'll find that they have a good control over what comes in and leaves their country. In the 5th position in chicken production. However, interestingly, because you cannot smuggle in eggs, Nigeria is the number 1 producer of eggs in Africa.
I said
yes.
Our population would also help to push that.
Let me go back to what I said earlier. Imagine South Africa that has 60 million people, and the number 1 producer is slaughtering 700,000 or 800,000 a day. 60 million population that are willing to eat chicken and consume it on a regular basis. So there are a lot of things that can be done to be able to get us to that position.
Considering that agriculture is the new oil, what level of support to get from government?
Thank you. I'll give you a current example now. Farmers all over the country are dying as we speak.
Wow.
The cost of producing an egg is maybe 700 naira per crate. A lot of chicken, a good thing to do would be for government to buy up that excess stock. And because an egg a day drives the doctor away, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, share those eggs among the millions of people who are right now in need of immunity. We know the egg has a very strong role to play in terms of immunity. There are eggs that are being buried right now by farmers. They're selling below cost. Buy these eggs and distribute it among the millions of people who need to boost their immunity right now. Sounds like a win-win to me. Done, yes. Yes. On the 7th of July, 2016 or so, the customs launched Operation Huntington, and they effected a closure of the borders, especially targeting chicken production. Nigerian farmers have never had it so good. Between the months of August and December, when the borders were closed, Nigerian farmers, both in maize, soya beans, chicken, had a great time as well. We're competing against smuggled chicken.
The internet again. Wow.
Do you want us to
internet? The internet.
How bad is this? Because I am getting you loud and clear here.
Yes, so, it's very stable again. I think it's stabilized again. So there's no control. Yes, we're listening, sir. We're listening to you, sir.
Yeah, so that is, so yes, there is a lot that the government needs to do. The poultry industry in Nigeria is in its infancy. We haven't scratched the surface yet.
Yes, I know you are very passionate about women empowerment. Could you please tell us about this?
You are doing well. You are doing well. It has to be about women. The fact is that our children are being given very little chance to develop to be strong, intellectually active adults, because we're way we're way behind on the index for protein. We also have one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. Now, for me, as a player in the protein industry, that is very, very painful. It's very shocking. We're supposed to be consuming about 22 grams per person per day. We're probably consuming less than 10 grams per person per day. And if you go around the country, for those of us who travel around the country on a regular basis, you would see the level of malnutrition. And in Nigeria, malnutrition is not that we don't get something to put in our mouths. As long as you eat to get full, we assume we're okay. So we're full on cassava, we're full on corn, we're full on all of that, but we don't have protein because it's regarded as being, it's more expensive. So what we're doing is this. We were able, by God's grace, to develop a bird in 2014 after about 15 years of research and development called the Noila. I named it the Noila because I was watching a Nollywood movie, and the name Nollywood struck me as being this bird has been developed in Nigeria for Nigerians to be able to solve the problem of the vast majority of Nigerians. So let's call it Noila. So we named it Noila. Now, what the Noila does is this. If you put 20 of those birds in the backyard of the average rural family farm, you will immediately take their protein intake above the World Health Organization minimum standard of 22 grams genetically. And there's no engineering, there's no major technology there. What we have done with a female that gives birth to a lot of, like Chief Dele M, and lady who gives birth to a lot of children, and we have mated them together over a period of time. It's big and very prolific in terms of production. So if you put this chicken in the backyard of the rural family, it will grow to be about 3 times the size of our local chicken, eating what the other chicken are eating in the compound. And then it will lay 4 times the number of eggs. So what we're doing is this. Let us put 20 of those birds, 10th of this country, in the bush, in the poorest of the poor villages, and get them and their children to eat protein. It will change the lives of those children in 20 years.
Wow.
And that's what we've done so far. We've achieved 300,000 rural families. Our objective is to do 1.2 million by the end of 2021 bodies. And that's why Harvard sent some professors to come and study the subject, and actually wrote a case study on what we've done with the bird. And they invited me to Boston in January to come and talk at the agribusiness seminar on how Noila can West and Central Africa to be able to scale into those countries. I'm reluctant to do it for now till we achieve capacity within Nigeria. Yes. But I think that is the gamut, really. And this really is my life's passion right now. It's become more than just a business to me. It has become my life's work. It's become probably the single most important thing that I do now. We've employed about 50 people to be able to go from village to village, showing videos to the villagers and encouraging them to consume protein. So we gave them a projector and a TV screen. So friction and the need for them to adopt the Noila. So it's very exciting work, and we thank God to have the opportunity to be able to do it.
Players like you, sir. And that even in those advanced countries that we all like to say, yes, they are producing this and that, everybody is talking about organic production. How does
those issues become relevant when you have eaten what is available to you? And that is it's an elitist concept, in the sense that the vast majority of the people we're trying to reach 3 or 4 days.
So it doesn't matter what they eat.
So right now, what we're trying to do is to get them natural protein. Now, the issue of organic is relevant because these farmers these villagers are realizing that the chicken that they're growing that is feeding only on natural materials, that is things they bring back from the farm, they grind some maize or grind some millet or whatever, things they cook, if they cook some rice or whatever food, they give them the waste or whatever is left. And the chicken are taking the rest from the farms or the gardens behind them. They're realizing they can sell this chicken at a premium, and it is seen as organic. And so organic farming is already happening in Nigeria because it hasn't had, chemicals, run through the system. So we eat our local chicken here. That is organic chicken. We eat our noila here. That is organic chicken. So they're already a huge organic presence that we have. A lot of our broiler farmers, a lot of our layer farmers don't use chemicals. A huge percentage of what we produce is organic by the nature of our husbandry practices.
Wow. Now, there is this rumor, since you are an expert, an international fast food chain that is being accused of growing headless chickens. Is there any truth? So I said I was going to ask you when you come on this program, that is there any truth to it? Or there are chickens that grow within 1 or 2 days?
No, sir, there is no truth to it. What has happened over the years is that the breeders of chicken have become innovative, and they have continued to use natural selection processes, like I have said, to create breeds of chicken that grow very quickly. So it is true that there are chicken that can reach 2 kg of body weight, which is what we call table weight, in 35 to 40 days. When I was in vet school, you achieved that, and that's 30 something years ago now. Now it's been achieved in 35 days. Then it was 42 to 49 days. So in getting bigger and breeding processes, natural selection, there is no headless chicken, because the brain, the central nervous system, and everything else that controls the chicken is in the head. It's not true. The closest I've heard is they were trying to breed a chicken that did not have feathers around it.
Wow.
But none of commercial importance. None that gets into the table, on the table for food.
I also saw videos of synthetic eggs in China. Could that be true? It seems like they are made from plastics. The yolk looks funny. I don't understand.
I don't know whether it's true or not.
It's actually put me off. These days, I hardly eat eggs when I see those things.
If you see a natural egg, I think you would know. God's work is really difficult to copy, and we've seen that in every sphere. God's work is difficult to really copy properly. So if you pay attention, you will know when it's a plastic egg. But I don't think it's anything of economic significance.
Which would you say has been the most challenging to deal with?
It's been the chicken. The chicken business has been very challenging, especially the broiler, because it's difficult to compete effectively against smuggled chicken.
I see. Then I noticed that when I'm abroad, I come across more of chicken breasts, and I don't like chicken breasts. So, what do you think is responsible for that? What happens to all the thighs and the legs and, the chicken breasts? I find them too chunky. So in Nigeria, is it the same or reverse is the case?
You're absolutely correct. The chicken breast is what you will find while dining or eating out in overseas kind of food. And the reason is that has become the delicacy for them. But in Nigeria and to a large extent, a lot of Africa, the chicken leg is what you keep for daddy. It's what the father in the house eats. So overseas, a lot of the one that doesn't go into restaurants, food, cat food, or it comes to Africa for a much cheaper price because the breast is the premium cut. They make their money from the breast and they make much less from the legs. But because we like the legs here, they preserve it with chemicals and then ship it to us here for, for next to nothing. So what happens is that, did you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, sir.
So I think the chicken is the most difficult part. The chicken leg is exported to Africa and other parts where it is consumed in large quantities. And that's why you see it a bit cheaper than what we are producing locally. But in Nigeria, we're able to sell the whole chicken.
And the gizzard. The gizzard.
The gizzard is a delicacy. I love gizzard. And yes, even the heart, the kidney, the liver, the other parts of the chicken is, a lot of people love it. The one that is most intriguing is that for us, what we call walkie-talkie. Walkie as leg, talkie as the head and the legs of the head and the leg is sold out before the chicken itself.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Now, there is another issue of cattle rearing in Nigeria, especially the traditional. Do you think this can go on for much longer? And more so now with the attendant risk, the insecurity in the country?
No, it's not sustainable. A very good friend of mine that I brought into poultry 15 years ago, his farm is on the Kaduna Zaria Road, called me up last week and said he was attacked by armed robbers. They shot one of his staff members who was critically ill and beat up the other one. And I said, my friend, there are police teams and military teams all on that road. Cattle have to walk away from the crime scene. Why can't? He couldn't give me a good answer.
Wow.
He's lost his cattle. We need to really get serious about this matter. It's a hot topic. I'm not going to get political here.
Yeah.
But the truth about it is that the sustainable way of keeping beef on our tables in a sustainable manner is by building cattle ranches. We, by God's grace, we have a 1,500 head capacity cattle ranch in Ogbomoso, where we produce very, very high quality beef, world-class beef that can beef from South Africa. It's been tried and tested, and taste for taste, we do produce a beef that is better than what is imported from anywhere in the world, locally.
So why do you think beef from South Africa is very, very popular and a bit elitist too? Because I see a lot of us, when we travel, you want to go to the butcher's shop in something and have them pack, racks of beef for you.
It's been about presentation. And that's what we're trying to change here. It's been about presentation. Yeah, I think if you have an opportunity to get the beef the way you're used to getting it, at least for the elites, if you get it the way you want to get it, with the taste that you want, I have a feeling that most people would patronize Nigerian beef. And that's the opportunity we're trying to tap into. We have been to those places around the world and seen exactly what is done to their cattle. And we have done studies over the years to see that some of our breeds in Nigeria, with the right feeding, the right treatment, the right management, For instance, do you know that if a cow or a bull is aware that the bull next to it has just been slaughtered,
wow,
it would release a lot of adrenaline and other hormones that will toughen the meat, because it's going to be tensed up. Its heart is going to be racing. It's going to tense its muscle. The cows don't see themselves. So at the time it's going to be slaughtered, it's fully relaxed, and that affects the taste and the strength of the meat. And so there are very many little things like that that can be done. The way the animal is fed and all of that would change the taste and the quality of the beef. And we have mastered all of that, and that's what we're doing to position ourselves in the beef market. But the long story, we need to go into ranching of our cattle to be able to move our country forward.
Now, we have passed 1 hour. We're approaching 1.5 hours now, but I still have a couple of questions. I hope you don't mind. And this now has to do with the milk. How lucrative is the business of milk, considering that people hardly drink fresh milk in Nigeria? When we were young, we used to have water and all those things. So what happened? We don't see milk. All we see is evaporated milk everywhere, powdered milk everywhere. Why do we like things that are dead and prefer it to fresh milk when we can have it?
Europe has trained us to go off liquid milk. It was a matter.
Wow.
So if you want to go back to liquid milk, somebody, probably government and government-backed agencies, must reverse that master plan.
Wow.
So it's going to take a while, and it's going to take a lot of hard work, because milk is a perishable as it comes from the cow. And also because milk is heavily subsidized around the world. In Europe, in the US, in Canada, and it's heavily subsidized with what it takes over a period of time.
In fact, that was going to be my next question about agriculture in Nigeria, the issue of subsidy, because in America, Argentina, and everywhere, this is huge business, and farmers do get incentives. Do you get that in Nigeria? Or everything is DIY, do it yourself?
DIY is the word here. I read in the news a few days ago that Donald Trump was going to release $3 billion or so to buy off excess product from American farmers.
Wow.
We're on a totally different planet here. We do everything ourselves. And it is like a Kenyan who grows up on the mountain and you put him on a lower altitude, he will outrun everybody. That's the situation with most of our businesses in Nigeria and our entrepreneurs. Give them the necessary support they need on a sustained basis, and they will do much better than anybody that is coming from outside. And I really, really believe this. With regards to government subsidies, the central bank, and I must give them credit for this, has been very proactive in reaching out to help farmers. But it is a very, very small population of farmers in my industry that gain that access. Other than that, we grade all our roads.
Wow.
We provide all our electricity. We take money at 20 of market management by anybody. So for most of farmers, it's DIY.
Wow. So finally, if I want to go into farming today, I have a lot of friends, especially who live abroad, and when they want to come back to Nigeria, they are thinking, hey, I'm not going to find a job. There are no white-collar jobs these days, so you have to do it yourself. You have to be an entrepreneur. That's the easiest thing to do these days, whatever money. So how would you advise, what are, let's say, ABC, what are the things that we need to do to get into farming? A lot of them are watching. I can see a lot of people from abroad watching, and they want to know, hey, can I take the risk? Because there was find a job. Then he told me he got some land in Osun and he wanted to start farming, and I should give him money in installments. And we gave, after 2 installments, the landowners came and claimed the land and everything. That was the end of it. So how do you deal with this?
Wow, thank you very much. I get this question quite often from different walks of life. And you need to be very careful when going into agriculture. If you go through all the religious books, you will see that the farmers are very blessed by God, but they're also among the hardest working people that you see in the community. They also believe in delayed gratification, in that you have to sow and then wait before you reap. And then also, you have to be passionate and committed and long-term in your vision. Many ways of doing that in Nigeria outside agriculture.
Wow.
If you're coming from somewhere and you want to invest in agriculture, you have to come armed with the passion and the energy and the enthusiasm to do it, because it's for the reasons I have said. And then you need to ask the right person the right questions. I've noticed a lot of people don't do the homework of finding the right person to ask the right questions. They ask the wrong person and he leads them astray. So take the time to ask the right person the right questions. Don't talk to one fly by night consultant who has a good computer in his house. Go and look for somebody who has done farming for 20 years, for over and over again, and has gone through all the cycles. And if he asks you to pay him, for God's sake, pay the man to get the right advice at the beginning. And if you do that, yes, you will succeed. It is a good business. It is a very good business. There are just certain rules that you must follow. People take agric for granted. My mother is keeping chicken in the village, therefore it must be.
Someone is asking, has Noila been patented?
Yes, Noila has been patented.
Yes, someone just asked that now. And finally, what's your attitude to taking loans for farming or agriculture in general?
If you want to work for the bank, take a commercial loan. Then you will work for the bank, and there will not be that much left for you. It is everywhere in the world, agriculture is funded single digit, and in some places, like I was surprised to find out, there's also negative interest that they use to fund agriculture. So I would say that either you fund it with your own cash, or you fund it so that the interest that should be going to the bank goes into your pocket, or you fund it with low cost loans. And I'm happy to see that Nigeria is starting to move in that direction. I just wish more and more medium and small scale farmers gain access to that kind of facility.
Now, I want you to be a prophet, sir. What are your projections for the future of agriculture? We don't have to import rice. And now we're saying we don't have to import beef as soon as possible.
Well, in the hands of God, really. As we have seen through this pandemic, we don't control very much. We just think we do. The truth about it is that 200 million people must eat 2 to 3 times a day. If you cannot afford to import because of your exchange rate, or because countries that produce are saying, hey, I want to keep everything I'm producing to myself, then you must grow it. Now, Nigeria, in terms of our vegetation and our climate, and these countries have gone ahead in 30 years to become the largest exporters of various commodities from their continents. Take Brazil as an example. All that has happened there has happened in 30 years. So what do we need to do? We need to start from now to first of all identify leaders in the various value chains. And this is what has happened in all the countries that I have studied. The government identifies leaders in value chains and gives them all the total support and commitment they need to rise up and take thousands of smaller entrepreneurs along with them. That is very critical. And look from technology to agriculture in different countries on different continents. They have been identified and given momentum to the rest of the population. And then we must pay a lot of attention to technology. We must pay a lot of attention to commitment over time. Agriculture is not a short-term endeavor. It has never been, it will never be. You have to go into it prepared for the long haul. If you have a short-term vision, or if you are changing the people that are running your agriculture every 4 or 5 years, and breaking the momentum, you will not achieve much success. Let us have a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan from overseas. Brazil learned a lot of what it used to become the champion now from the United States. There is no shame in it. Bring in experts from around the world, put them on a 10-year plan. Do not change that plan for politics or anything, and roll that plan out over the next 10 or 20 years. But before we do that, I have something that is also painful on my mind. We have taken history out of our curriculum in our schools. The day I heard that, I shed tears, because that is really, really an unfortunate thing to do. Because all our children know more about American and English history than they know about Nigerian history. That's sad. But the other thing we need to do is to put farms, little school farms, in every school in this country. For a very low cost, we can achieve it. 10 chicken, 2 goats, 1 ram, maybe 1 cow to be able to get the milk from it, a little piece of land for soya or maize, something they must do. You must have pepper behind your house. You must have some tomato growing in your backyard. You can even have 5 chicken laying the eggs that your family will eat for the day. We must go back, because without conquering agriculture, Nigeria will succeed by God's grace, but it will be much more painful.
Wow. From your experience, so which country is your ideal country for agriculture in the world?
I will look at, in terms of climate and all of that, I would say Brazil. I would look at the Brazilian example. In Asia, I would look for especially for corn and soya beans and all of that, and also even chicken and beef.
Wow.
For milk, I'll look at Thailand and that part of Southeast Asia. So we can learn bits and pieces from the different places, and they will be quite willing to share their knowledge with us if we are ready to go the long haul.
Thank you very much, sir. We actually crossed 90 minutes. And I think, if you don't mind, one of these days we would like to have you back. There are all kinds of questions.
For talking too much.
No. Agriculture is too important, and everybody wants to know what to do. I don't see any business that wants to. Greek people we used to call Baba Greek, the agriculture teacher, and we had farms. We will plant maize, plant yam, plant. I don't know if anybody. In fact, the only time I ever had a cut on my palm was from using a cut